Hi, Saturday. I'm actually going to give this video a topic title rather than just the Saturday chat, but I'm going to start off with something still related to this Caravel, which I'm starting to think is like going to be my, weird airfix aeroplane of the year and possibly of all time. So reading a number of your comments relating to aspects of this, and all of them are good in how to address the windows and everything, but one or two of you mentioned that there was a tool that Airfix supplied to help you punch through the decals lo and behold, I didn't even know what I was looking at when I saw this in the kit. I thought it was a piece of extra sprue or something. So I didn't know what I was even looking for. When you said there was a tool, I actually first thought there was something that was, going to punch many windows out. Now this thing fits very nicely in there, I must say. It's got a very small little handle. So I decided to look at the instructions because I've never seen that in my life on any Airfix kit. This must be the only Airfix kit ever to have that. So we've got step 8 being the color scheme. Nothing. Well done, Airfix. Maybe that's why this kit was left unbuilt and remains in the box to this day, because I'd love to know how many people's hands this kit has been through. And nice that they gave blank decals, and depending on which country you were in at the time, it may or may not have been possible to contact Airfix for decals, instructions. It's all fine these days. We've got the internet and the ability to find instructions, so no hassle. But this kit goes back many decades. So pity the poor person, maybe even a kid that bought this. Firstly, they get no instructions, and secondly, they end up with one of the most interesting cases of how to handle windows and decal. So anyway, now that I have that, well, I guess we have to try it that way. So the nice thing is this little tool also helps remove any flash there. So I will start plans to do this model by doing a pre-painted line, by putting on the decals, by punching them through, and then by putting in these afterwards. And I won't worry about the flush aspect of it. I want to see if you just followed what they said, how nice does your model look afterwards. So interesting. Thanks guys for that little bit of information. When I was sitting there looking in the box, I was like, what? Have I lost the little thing to help push through? I don't even know what it was supposed to look like. So there we go, new piece of information on that one. I've got this one, which is the same box size, but of course because it's a white paint around the windows, there's no problem with a decal having to be punched through, so that's obviously quite different. Very similar sized aircraft, more windows. It's quite interesting, more windows per side. I'm quite keen to put these aircraft next to each other then. So that's got a blue painting to be done, silver on the wings, red on the tail. It's got a bit of painting, but not a difficult build. Okay, so the topic for today, which is actually quite an interesting one, I think, but it doesn't affect a lot of us now. So if you're an older modeler, would it actually, I don't know, I mean, it might affect randomly aged people. The issue is the cost of modeling. The reason why I say it probably wouldn't have affected older ones, because you're already well established with your tools, your paints, your kits, and so on. But my statement would be, how can you run modeling on a budget? Because it's not necessary to be spending a lot of money. So let me talk about that. I don't go into a model shop as often as one would think, and I don't buy new models as often as you'd think, but I do buy new ones online, so there is sort of an equivalent. But I try and buy secondhand way more often. So my statement is, to start with, don't be buying new stuff. If you want to, and for a long time I did that, and I liked to do that. I liked to have good value for money in my hobby. So second-hand sales, seeing stuff that was going at a swap meet or a club, is absolutely the way to go to obtain these. Now, if you're in a city which has got model clubs or meetings or get-togethers or swap meets, absolutely find out about them and go to those. Put them in your calendar for the year, even in neighboring towns, and collect, especially I think in this day and age, you've got a lot of old folk that are going out of the hobby due to eyesight, due to scaling back, whatever the case may be. Getting rid of a lot of very good stuff, old, beautiful old Airfix, old Matchbox, old Hella, and new stuff. Doesn't have to only be old. It's not like they were collecting and stopped collecting, in the 90s and 2000s and so on. But having a stash of models is still very, very possible. In fact, almost more possible by going to these swap meets. That's my first point. Number 2 is, don't fixate on a topic. So, like if you've seen, okay, there's this amazing Hasegawa 1/32 scale, something or other that you absolutely must have. Well, that's now going to cost you money now, because now you're wanting a particular thing and you're going to have to buy the new one. If I fixate on the 1/24 Spitfire that they've released, well, there's no real way to get that other than to buy it. It's not like you're going to find that at a second-hand meeting or someone passing it on easily. That's absolute latest and good quality stuff. But if you're a modeler, and I'm really in that category, who I may have my favorite topics, but I'm mostly just open to building anything that comes across my path. I might be building a new model which isn't even in my stash next week if I found something interesting at a good price. If you are in an area which is not near a town, or you are not able to easily travel, I'd get hold of the organizers of swap meets. With the internet and pages for all sorts of things these days, it's not that difficult to find out who's the organizer for a swap meet in an area that is not that far from you, such that they may even put together a package for you and send it to you. I mean, if you don't try, if you don't make contact and say, well, you're in this position, you'd love to obtain a bunch of kits. I know that in our town we would absolutely be able to do that to anyone that requested such. Tools, Not the most difficult to put together a toolkit if you were starting out now, but you know, it's not that likely that people are starting out now. Mostly you'd have your stuff together. And I don't think tool buying is a real part of the hobby. Airbrush and a compressor, right. So now you've got the two avenues of, do you want to be a brush painting modeler? In which case you've saved yourself those costs. Now it's just brushes and the paints, but everybody needs to buy the paints. It is possible to go into airbrushing and compressor on somewhat of a budget, scanning the second-hand ads or another modeler that's passing on stuff. There are ways to get into that cheaper than going to buy very expensive stuff. And the paints, yeah, there isn't a whole lot of option other than sometimes you find paint ranges going with discount on them or half-price tins or things like that. Sometimes modelers change what they're doing. So I've seen a number of Humbrol selections going second-hand. You do sometimes get acrylics going second-hand as modelers want to change or whatever the case. So while there's always the option to be a high-spending modeler, there is also quite an opportunity to obtain very, very interesting stashes and model lineups by attending these second-hand meetings. And I know, USA and Britain are absolutely brilliant for that sort of thing. So if you're not doing that, maybe make that a new avenue of activity for yourself. Okay, I will do another video shortly.